Hello and welcome to Anatomy of Marriage, a show that brings real help to real couples. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
What's up, guys? My name is Seth Studley. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and we are super excited to bring you Shana James, host of the Man Alive podcast. She came on. It's really interesting because she's been coaching men for 15 years, and she's a woman, but she brings out stuff in men that are super amazing. And one of her TEDx talks, What 1,000 Men's Tears Reveal About the Crisis Between Men and Women, is freaking amazing. You guys are going to love this show. You're going to get value from it, so stay tuned.
All right, enjoy. It's lovely to have you on the show, and we're just so awesome to have a great conversation. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll dive right on in.
Okay, where to start? Well, I work a lot with men, and I have for the past 20 years or so. And everybody's always like, why do you do that as a woman? And, you know, I started out thinking that I was going to coach and counsel women. And then I had a chance to be part of this workshop where I, as a woman, was giving honest and loving feedback to men. And it totally rocked my world. And I really got to see behind the facade and behind that curtain, you know, of like, or the mask of men have got it together and whatever my ideas were about how men might have objectified me or any of that. And I just got to go deeper than that and see men's hearts, and somehow felt called to keep, you know, diving into this work with men. So it feels exciting to me. I feel like in some ways I get to love men for a living, and in other ways, especially in the heterosexual world, I'm loving women through helping men.
Right. I love that.
That is awesome. And I can tell you one thing from a man having been, so I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and have been for 15 years. And it has always been predominantly female heavy, I guess. I was always outnumbered, right? And I was never intimidated by that or whatever. I never thought, oh, this is weird, or what am I doing here, kind of thing. And it really feels awesome when I could connect with other women, not in a romantic way, of course, but other women, and it felt like they understood what I was saying as a man. So I love that you do that. And I watched your TED Talk, by the way, awesome, TEDx speaker in Valparaiso, which was rad. And I resonated with that because the things that you say, and of course you know this, but our listeners may not, the things that you say and the way that you help men navigate through these emotions that all men have, we're just humans, right? The way that you help them navigate through that is almost, I think sometimes for the first time ever, men going, oh my gosh, I have permission and I actually can tap into this whole other landscape that I formerly did not know even the hell it existed, right? Or it has been
and just
culturally.
To give that, like a little bit of context, right? It's like it's a lot about the vulnerability and about everybody starting to welcome men's vulnerability more. And I called it what 1,000 men's tears reveal about the crisis between men and women, because having worked with so many men and being let into their world and their emotions and helping men see, oh, there's nothing wrong with me if I'm feeling something, right? It's just that, like you said, you guys have been conditioned out of it.
Yeah, and it can be one of the most scary things, right? Of course, I was raised in the South. I can go chop wood, or I'm thinking of that Hank Williams Jr. song. Do you guys know that one? I can skin a butt. I can run a trot line. A country boy can't survive.
Nope. Skin a butt. I heard you say.
I know, that's what we just
skin
say butt.
Skin a buck.
I
Sorry,
heard butt too.
a deer.
Like, what is that?
Like,
a Southern thing.
Partially. I can spit chew. I can chop wood, or go hunting, or do anything, but then also be as soft as I need to be.
Right.
But you can't, of course, I wasn't really acculturated to be that as soft as you can.
Right.
Just like, hey, buck up, man up. And that really was, I guess, suppressed for years and years and years.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And can you speak a little bit about that, how that's most men's journey?
Well, yeah. And I was just thinking before you had mentioned, talking about what women really want from men. And you can say whether this is true. Like, I never like to make assumptions, right? Because I'm not a man. But when I think about that, the range of acceptance or care or love, or like being let into a man's heart, and emotions, I think most women I talk to are really wanting that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, they're also wanting a kind of leadership and self-knowing and like there's a strength that women also really long for often in men. And so, yeah, that journey from thinking that strength is just about, I've got it all together and I'm the rock and I can't show any weakness and I can't ask for help, to actually start including, wow, vulnerability is one of the strongest things you can do. And, a lot of men will jump out of an airplane without, I don't know, maybe not without a second thought, but, it's like they'll do it. And then I say to them, well, have you talked to your partner or your wife about this? And they're like, no, that sounds terrifying. And I'm like, well, you have, right? You have the courage, you have the strength to do this. And so we have to I start to, with men, unravel, like, why is it so scary? What do you think is going to happen? And okay, well, I think she's going to think this about me. Okay, well, then what if she does? And right, we kind of go into that worst case scenario or that worst fear and actually walk it through.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. What was it in the Gay Hendricks book we interviewed Gay Hendricks, who's the author of the book Big Leap.
I saw the Big Leap.
Oh, he's so amazing.
Great.
He was saying the longest journey for most people, but I think for men in particular is from your head to your heart.
Right.
Just 12 inches long.
Right.
This is 12 little inches, but it's like the hardest thing ever. And we do this with our coaching clients all the time. I'll often tell the wives, I'm like, look, this is probably the hardest thing that your husband will ever have to kind of face, which sounds ridiculous because we think
sounds ridiculous, but it's true.
Mean? Yeah, like what do you mean? He can chop wood, he can skin a butt or right?
A butt.
Like, I know, but it's way funnier when it's a butt.
Right.
But like he can do all these things and whatever, but you're telling me that it's that difficult for him to just say what he feels. And then on the flip side too, when we see our male clients who begin to express their emotions, and I did this in our own marriage too. I was like, what are you doing? Why are you telling me how you feel?
Yes.
Like, ew, I'm the only one allowed to have feelings, which is a disgusting statement.
I would really love to camp out on that and kind of just observe or maybe facilitate a conversation between you two because... So, okay, we've identified, yes, men have emotions. We're not just, wood choppers and butt skinners, right?
Yeah.
We have a deep well of emotions.
Yes.
And one thing that I found with our clients and also just with Melanie, one of the absolute most 100% things that she wants is my deep emotionality.
Yeah.
Right? She wants to be connected to me. Oftentimes she says, what are you thinking? And for years, I'm like, I don't know the answer to that. You might as well.
Right.
I don't even know. Right.
And you try to make something up. I'm thinking.
And then that
right now, were you really asking for what he was thinking, or were you really wanting to know, like, what are you feeling, or what's?
I think it was. I should have just been like, "Hey, I'd love to talk.
I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to talk." Right.
That's all that was. But I was throwing it onto him and be like, "What are you thinking?"
Right.
Right. Yeah. And so
So the I don't know if it's the juxtaposition of you want that emotional side of me, and when I've shown it or when other men show it, some women go, what do I do with that?
Right.
That's not what I wanted. And then even sometimes that gives a mixed message to the guys of, oh, well, you're too emotional, you're too cry. Where did that come from? And then the guy's like, all right, sealed shut.
I'll never
Thank
do
you very
that
much.
again.
Totally,
Adios.
I'll never do that again. Which is why, right, when I work with men, I really work with helping them stop taking things personally. And that once you have that clarity inside yourself, like, I'm a great human being and I have emotions, and I'm going to feel things. Then if she responds that way, you're like, okay, sweetie, like, I can understand that this is hard for you and I'm still okay. Right. I still want this from you. I still need this with you. And I don't have to then go down that spiral into there's something wrong with me. And if she doesn't accept me, there must be something wrong with me.
Right. I feel like there's a lot, like when we attach meaning to the fact that there is an emotion, like that's really where the trouble starts. Because if so many men who are used to shoving that down, not communicating that emotion, not even saying what the need might be beneath the emotion, and then they start assigning, well, I feel that way, that must mean that I'm
weak, or that must mean I'm smaller, that must mean I'm unlovable, that must mean I'm not attractive, or that all those things are just that second layer, like you're saying, of Now I'm assessing how I'm being instead of I'm just having a feeling.
Right, right. And I wonder how long, like we were just talking on another podcast about if you just sat with that discomfort for like 90 seconds, could it just go away and you'd be fine? you know what I mean?
You nailed it. So that was point number 2 in your TED Talk. Be comfortable with the discomfort. So in this, going back to the conversation between you guys, to what level can a spouse, a partner, a female partner, help to encourage or really look into their own self? Because if Melanie or another woman is really like, oh my goodness, I didn't know these emotions existed because, family of origin, my dad wasn't that way or whatever. Can you give some tips, or you guys have a conversation around your journey around being comfortable with that and maybe unlearning some things that you learned?
Do you have any thoughts right out of the gate?
I do.
You go first.
I mean, again, having watched thousands of men actually express, it's like in the beginning, I did have that feeling of like, oh God, I think I talked about this in the TED Talk too. It's like, if you're used to a man being that solid ground and that, person that you go lean on, if he starts feeling emotional, it can seem like, well, now he's wobbly and now I can't trust him and now I can't count on him. And so what I really love to support women to do is also to come back to themselves and find their own strength and their own ground and their own clarity. And that way you can choose to lean on a man, but you don't have to, right? It's not like, oh God, if you go away, my world falls apart, because that's not a healthy dynamic anyway, right? And just thinking about what you were saying, it's like, I think I talked about this in the talk about helping women start to welcome that vulnerability and start to think about it like, okay, my partner's going to have a whole range of experiences. And some of them are going to be emotion, and some of them are going to be action, and some of them are going to be, passion. And it just to start to wrap your head around it. I'm curious for you, Melanie, because you said you did have that initial reaction that, right, again, it doesn't mean anything, and he's going to come through it as long as he's willing to do his own work and to stay connected about it. Then it's not like he's leaving you or he's falling apart or he's going to turn into a puddle, forever. And that, I think, is if we have those own fears about our emotions ourselves, which women often do, then we just put that on him.
Right. And it's interesting, like in our journey, as you were sort of explaining that, my dad is very much like, he's the oldest son in his family. He's like the head, he's a CEO, right? So all the vibes that my dad puts out are, I know exactly what to do. I am unemotional about it. He also has a traumatic brain injury, which like removed a lot of his like emotional vibes. So I know, right? So the like
the epitome of the alpha.
Absolutely. Right. And so like my framework for what a man is, quote, supposed to be like is he's authoritative. He knows the right thing, and like really the right thing. He doesn't mess up. He doesn't waffle between options. He doesn't cry. He certainly doesn't tell me he's afraid. Right? He's never afraid.
Wow, he's superhuman.
Yes, he's superhuman. He has no feelings. He doesn't need feelings. He can do whatever. And so I remember when Seth, like when he would go through these times of being frustrated about something, even him being frustrated about something was like, for me, it felt like the whole world is falling apart. Something bad is going to happen. My stability, my rock is completely shattering. What do I do? That means that something bad, it just felt so scary and unsettling. And then I realized, I'm like, wait, one, I'm modeling his behavior after my father. That's not going to be helpful. Seth has all of his brain. My dad does not. And so I'm like, this isn't great. And then I also realized too, like, as much as I love my dad, I don't want Seth to be like my dad. I didn't marry Seth because he's like my father. I married Seth because he's him. And so it took a lot of introspection into like, wait, what meaning have I assigned to Seth's emotions? If he cries, what does it mean to me? Oh, it actually means he's human too. Like I wasn't giving him the respect for his emotions that I was requiring from him to give to me. Right. And that was another thing too, where I was like, dang it. Like I want him to have all the grace in the world when I'm losing my marbles, but I never want to see him lose his. That's deeply unfair.
It's perpetuating that narrative that doesn't bring you the actual connection that you want.
I was just going to say that too, right? It's like, if you don't allow any space for that, the man becomes more distant and shut down and disconnected and not able to be attuned and, loving and caring in the ways that we want. So it's like we want the best of all the world, or we think it's the best of both worlds, right? Like, love me, care for me, see me, understand me, and then, you know, just keep that all to yourself.
Right.
Like, okay, ladies, imagine this. And so you love to connect emotionally with me, with your girlfriends, with just other people, right? And you have a full range of emotions that I'm not going to speak for you, but on the whole, you let them out, right?
Very wide range.
You let them out, and it's culturally acceptable. Right. I accept it. It's the norm, right? So imagine that if you had to like stop all that,
right?
And actually be okay with it, you know?
Right.
And so a lot of people don't talk about that. And now I'm just thinking, you know, because I go back to like research and, you know, licensed marriage family therapy stuff. It's like, okay, the data shows there's higher rates of aggression, suicide, alcohol abuse, porn use by who? Men. Right?
Who's shoving their emotions, right? Who's holding on to all this stuff and feeling isolated and alone and unsupported.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, as you're saying that, because we have 3 kids and our 2 oldest are boys and they're 13 and 12. So they're they're in middle school, and it's so strange to watch because then our daughter is 9. So she's just a little bit below them. And to see them, like, you can see the wheels turning in their mind. Like, I'm not allowed to, like, they're not saying these things out loud, but they are clearly working through in their mind, I'm actually not allowed to be like giddy about something, because that's what a girl does.
That's not cool.
That's not, it's not cool. It's whatever. But you can see that there's clearly like a struggle there. And what was really weird, when COVID hit and our kids got taken out of school. So our middle school, or the oldest son, was in middle school and then was taken back into homeschooling. And immediately he went from being like preteen vibes, like tween totally, to being a kid again. It was the weirdest, like taking out of his peer group. He stopped having something to compare himself to. Yes. And it was like he became carefree and like a boy again. And it was so heartbreaking, but also like, well, thank you that I get this.
Thank God. And so heartbreaking, and all of it all at the same time.
Yes. And it's really weird because our middle son is very much attuned to these things. Like when something is like incongruent or whatever, and he's like, wait, how come she can do that but I can't? Like, what's the deal? And you're just like, well, culture, I don't know.
Well, right. And actually you can, and you need to, right?
Right.
I mean, I just remember, like, that was the beginning of my TED talk, was, you know, walking down the hall in my kid's kindergarten, and this woman, my kid was crying, and this woman was like, no tears. And I was like, oh, back off, lady. You know, I almost punched her in the face. I was like, you have no idea why my kid is crying, and why would you tell him not to cry? Like, what is that about? You know? And then I was saying how her son, a couple days later, like, came up to me randomly. This is so bizarre how the universe works. And was like, I got in trouble 3 times today because I was mean to kids. And I was like, oh, from the mother who told my kid not to cry, right? Right. You know, you can totally see how the family dynamics make that happen. And if we don't allow it from a young age. So I may have overshot, because with my kid, there is a ton of expression. And there are sometimes where I'm like, oh, I may have, you know, rebounded to the other end of the spectrum too far. So now I'm having to kind of rein it in and be like, you can cry and have your feelings, and you can still do your homework. Right. You know, or you can cry and you can empty the dishwasher. Like, it doesn't just make everything stop.
Hey guys, quick break from the amazing conversation with Shana right now. I want to talk to you about getfaithful.com/anatomy of marriage. And my words are the words of a marriage and family therapist, right? I've been in practice. I've seen tens of thousands of hours of clients, literally tens of thousands of hours of clients, and people need help, right? So go to getfaithful.com/anatomy of marriage to get hooked up with a licensed counselor in your state. You can bill your insurance, you can stay in your J's, you can do it on your phone, in your car, in the Burger King parking lot. It doesn't matter. Go to getfaithful.com/anatomy of marriage. Tons of people are getting the help that they've needed for years and years and years. They're doing it, and they're changing themselves, and they're changing their marriage. So getfaithful.com/anatomy of marriage. I have a question about, like, inherently, I am just way more masculine than feminine, right? There's more higher T levels, right, than E levels. And that's what, you know, biologically I am. And then I gravitate towards stuff that I really enjoy, like chopping wood or hunting or running down a trail or jumping off a cliff into a river. things like this. So where would you say the balance is for? Because we can talk about like toxic masculinity, which I believe is just the pendulum swing of like, okay, I've held all this shit in for so long. Now I'm just pissed about it and I'm going to do whatever I want, that involves like trucks and guns and, 4x4, whatever. It's like, okay, that's too far this way. So what's going on? So what would you say? And honestly, this is really interesting. I guess it's just ironic. So I'm asking females about what masculinity looks like.
Like a level of mature masculinity, or like a high form of masculinity that's not toxic, as you're saying?
Yeah, like true masculinity. I like to do these things, and I know that some of those things, like when I wear a red flannel shirt, Melanie just, she's like, okay, let's have a fourth kid. Right. I don't even know. Right? So those things that are inherently masculine in me, and then the inherent feminine of you that is just like a magnet to it kind of thing, without being, oh, he's a jerk or whatever. So it's like a conversation around actually acknowledging those things and encouraging those just to the max, because it's your best self, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say. I mean, my immediate thought is it's just about health and balance. It's not necessarily about masculine and feminine. It's like expressions of your health and balance,
Yes, right? Like expressions of all parts of you, and the parts that love to run or go or be creative, and and then like there's a physicality, there's emotionality, there's a spirit, right? And so allowing for all that. I was thinking about an interview I did with Terry Real, who's a psychologist. I don't know if you know him. He's amazing. And he was saying that he asked, I can't remember where he was, but it was either South America or some native tribe, where he asked like, well, what do you think of as being really masculine, or the best form of masculinity? And they said something about, meeting the situation with whatever it calls for, right? Like if it calls for heart, then bringing heart. If it calls for brute, then bringing brute, right? And I love that. I thought it was really beautiful, because that's how I think of confidence also, which is not, I know how to do everything and I've got it down. It's more like, oh, I trust myself that I can meet whatever's showing up in a way where, I'm going to stay true to myself and do the best I can to, support others.
What's weird, that makes me think of the word responsible, like response-able, like you're able to respond, right? And it's weird, like the responsibility. I don't know, that made that stuck out to me.
I love that.
Yeah, I know, I love that like dissection of that word in that way. And something that came to my mind as you were talking about this and in the masculine sort of conversation is that it's very deeply unfair, and I want to say this to women who might be struggling with this, that women are essentially, quote, allowed to be whatever we want to be. I could shave my head tomorrow and dress in camo every day for the rest of my life, and no one would shun me the way that they would potentially shun a man for doing that same sort of opposite thing. I can build furniture. No one looks at that like, oh, you weirdo. Like I literally could do anything. I could be into monster trucks.
Cool.
Monster trucks and chaw. I don't even know.
Right.
But it's really something that I think oftentimes women can get sucked into this conversation just as deeply as men, and have this sort of like framework around it and think that it's so much harder for women. It's this and that. But then really it's like, man, if you just, again, I go back to this with our kids. My boys are not, there are things that in the culture we live in, the city we live in, and we live near Seattle. So it's like free flowing here. But but even then, if they went to school in a dress, there would be, they probably wouldn't even be allowed to, right? Yeah. But if I went to school in pants, which I did every day, no problem.
You're totally allowed to.
Right. So that there's something to be said there. The freedom that I have that Seth does not have to express myself in a way that he is not allowed to express himself.
Yeah. That makes sense. But of course, on the other sides, like I, can go anywhere or walk down any alley. So there's that other
kind of walk down an alley at night, right? It's like, and maybe that's part of that is just, okay, we need to get out of the conversation of it's harder for me or it's harder for me, and actually just get, it's hard for everyone in different ways.
Right.
And can we actually have compassion? Can we start to realize, oh, what if I have compassion for the person in front of me? And what if I take it out of all men are, all women are, and really attempt to separate all my history and all the baggage and all the cultural conditioning from like, who is this person in front of me? Can I really get to know this person and love this person and care for this person?
Right. That's beautiful. I think that's awesome.
I think the description that you were saying in your interview with Terry reminded me of something. I know that we've had a couple of shared guests, like Larry Hagner has been on the show, and also Ryan Mickler of Order of Man. And one of the things that he asks his guests on his show is, what does it mean to be a man, right? And you get the huge, just a whole plethora of answers, and all of which are whatever. But I have never heard what you just said Terry said. Like, I am the person, I show up as the man that I need to be in whatever situation. That means I can play Legos on the floor with my daughter, go to a daddy-daughter dance with her, or go, clip flowers with her or whatever. Or if she wanted to, I mean, I've done this.
Go ride monster trucks together.
Right. I've taken her snowboarding or hunting or whatever. And then other times, it's snowing, there's a blizzard, there's no power, we need to go cut firewood, whatever kind of thing. So you show up as you are best able. I think that really hit me. That's like the best definition I've ever heard. Because it's not, you have to be this, you have to be that.
Right.
What does the situation call for?
What's the situation call for, and how do you bring yourself to it, right? Without resentment or without giving up parts of yourself. Because I think the resentment comes from, well, now I'm supposed to live up to this ideal, or I'm supposed to do this thing, versus that inspiration to serve or to protect or to care for and to collaborate with, then that I think handles a lot of that resentment.
Right. And it's almost like that idea of comparison is the thief of joy. It's like, I imagine like you having an outline of what you look like and trying to overlay it, like trying to make it match up with what society says a man should be, or what masculinity is. And it's like, wait, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. It fits here, but it doesn't fit there. Like, how do I, whatever. And if you're constantly comparing yourself to that outline, yes, we will all fall short of whatever the outline is, right?
Whatever.
Right. And so I think leaning into that balance, the health, the ability to show up in a way that suits that situation the best. I think that's brilliant. And I guess the next question would be like, what do you find stops most men from doing that?
Yeah, I was just thinking, actually, and I think that leads in nicely, because I was just thinking about how a lot of men have been conditioned, right? So if it's not okay to feel and it's not okay to need help, then it's also not okay to ask questions. And a lot of men come to me thinking, well, I should know, especially in the bedroom, I should be really great at sex, and being really great at sex means I know exactly what's needed in every moment. I don't have to ask. And, and I'm like, good luck with that, because every woman is different, and every day is different in our cycle, and maybe every hour and every emotion we're having is different, So that sense of, actually, I'm realizing it's similar to what we were just talking about. It's like, showing up for what is here and being able to ask, like, hey, it looks like you're struggling over there. Is there anything you need? Or in the bedroom, it might be, do you like this better or that better? Because I want to make you happy. And so just that sense of, so many men come to me thinking like, I'm not allowed to ask. That makes me look weak, or that makes me look, unpracticed, or like I'm not an expert at it.
Right.
And I just think that starting to let go of that is really, really powerful, without, like you said, Melanie, the meaning, like it means something.
Right.
If I don't.
Right. Yeah. I think you often say shake truth on it, like shake some truth on it. Like if you don't know something in the bedroom, you just don't know. And you'll know when you ask. No big deal. Right. Like let's make it as.
I would so much rather a man ask me than just keep like poking around and trying.
Does that feel good?
Knock it off. What are you doing? Pleasuring you?
Like that Seinfeld
episode.
What do you do? It
feels like aliens are poking my body.
That's really funny. So Shana, I was just listening to you talk, and this also kind of hit me. Oftentimes, I think our the world that men have grown up in is very much ego-based versus spirit-based. Yeah. And I was reading Eckhart Tolle, I don't know, a while back, and getting into all this, which is amazing, by the way. But
I love him.
Oh, he's great. Man, I lost my mind.
You're like a Zen master when you're.
Yeah, it's wild. But the idea of being an ego, or ego versus spirit, and nearly everything good happens when I'm in spirit, when I'm inspired, when I'm in inspiration in spirit, and then ego, they say it's edging God out, or edging spirit out. It's what I am.
That.
It's a I, me, mine kind of thing. And we see most disagreements or arguments is when two people are in ego, right? So I was saying, how does this maybe toxic masculinity or just this ethos around how men are supposed to be, that is completely in ego, right? So how can we unlearn that? Oh yeah, and so unlearning that, first of all, accepting it, and then unlearning it, and having our spouse, our partner, unlearn it as well. But then going to the bedroom, I want to talk about that a little bit, because it is something that men feel, oh, I have to be the pro here. If I like orgasm before she does, that means I have ED. What's wrong with me? I can't even last, kind of thing. And men will go through hell or high water to like not make that happen. I even saw this thing one time. It was a long time ago. I think it was in my graduate studies or something. And some guy was sharing his story where he hooked up with a lady, and we'll get graphic here, but that's fine. He hooked up with a lady, and while he was doing oral sex on her, he was putting numbing cream on him, so he wouldn't like go sooner. And I'm like, how in the world can that be a connecting and pleasurable experience when you're thinking about, oh man, I can't go do anything. You're like, okay, you're just in your head. You're not in your heart or your body whatsoever, which was body. That just illustrated so like a
pressure.
Right.
Yeah, and a performance only thing. It's like we talk about sexual intimacy, physical intimacy, as having two components: connection, emotional and physical, obviously, and then pleasure. What do we find connecting, like at a real heart level? And then what do we find very pleasurable physically, right? And so I just a brief foray into what do women really want. I know this is a huge open-ended question. What do women want about sex? No, but what are maybe 2 or 3 things that you guys can share what makes up a real connecting and pleasurable sexual experience? Because if a guy can go, okay, let me focus on that, and then if I focus on that, then I can begin to be in my body and heart instead of ego all the time.
You go first.
I know I put you guys on the spot. So.
One of the things I've been supporting men with recently is the idea of touching for not only the pleasure of whoever they're touching, but for their own pleasure. And I've had experiences myself with this where I've tried this exercise where I'm trying to touch the way I think somebody wants to be touched. And then I touch, for what actually feels good to me. And I had a huge fight with one of my partners in a tantric workshop because he was like, whatever you're doing right now, that feels awful. Like, this is not cool. And that was when I was trying, And so I think that if men could actually get, okay, I can please her, or I can pleasure her, take care of her, whatever. And I can allow it to be pleasurable for myself at the same time. I don't have to leave myself out. I don't have to make this like a grid or an engineering project, right? I don't have to go into my head. It's like, okay, what would it be like for me to just enjoy myself in this experience? And if I notice that I am not, it's okay to pause, right? A lot of men and couples come to me and they're like, well, right, we can't stop in the middle because then that means we couldn't restart. And I'm like, no, when you really think about sex less as a goal orientation of like, we have to orgasm or we have to climax, there's peaks and valleys, and, there's more pleasure in one moment and then more heart, like you said, in another moment. And sometimes they're all merged. So I really love helping men remember, okay, when I'm, attempting to make a woman feel good, it's not like I'm doing it from my head. I'm actually feeling my own body and my own experience. And then I think the thing that a lot of men, I don't know, you can tell me, Seth, but a lot of men don't realize is when you start to get that attuned to a woman's body, you can actually feel her pleasure and her orgasm, which means you get to feel your own and hers at the same time. And it becomes this exponential experience, which is incredible, right? It's fantastic. And I feel sad that a lot of people don't experience that.
Right.
Yeah. Right. I think that happens. And, the saying, lead with vulnerability, and sometimes we talk about things on our podcast, so we go first so other people can go second. And in sexual intimacy, of course, with ourselves and then with our clients, we've talked about, when I know that Melanie is really into it and just free and in her heart, guess what that does for me? it gives me permission, you know, just like, okay, let's go to Bonkers Town, right? Or I don't even know what that means.
I don't either.
On the opposite
Town.
side, Bonkers Town. I don't know. Great sex. When I am in my body and head, that is like amazing accelerator turn on like crazy for you as well.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So as we've been talking, my thoughts this is going to sound so weird for a minute here, but we interviewed Dr. Tina Shermer Sellers, and she is a sex therapist. She was one of his professors at Seattle Pacific University, and she's just an awesome person. And so she was talking about this idea that obviously this stuff around masculinity starts when our sons are boys, right? When they're little. And she said the majority of boys get taken off of parents' laps around 6 years old, and they never get any real sort of loving, non-sexual touch until they're teenagers, right? Till they get their first girlfriend. So think about like how big of a gap that is just for any, like, you know, when I'm sick and someone rubs their, you know, touches my forehead or puts a rag on my face or whatever, or just rubs my arm, I feel better. But men, it's really weird as we've been thinking, I'm like, man, men hit each other. They have like one way that they can communicate something physically. They smack each other, they kick each other. Yeah. They run. I mean, our boys do this stuff all the time. They would never think to just hug.
Well, that is an example, because I think that because we've had these conversations, you know, like our middle kid,
wrestles with you all
comes
the time.
up and wrestles and stuff, and she's like, "Hey, stop that!" I'm like, "No,
well,
it's
sometimes
okay."
It's in the kitchen. It's just
I mean,
a bad spot.
getting rowdy and whatnot, but I don't believe for 1 second that he is doing that because he would rather me hug him. It's like how we like that's a masculine show.
Yeah.
Right.
Of affection,
I think it's both. I think you're right.
And it's kind of like it's funny too, because like, oh, testing this guy that I know could just pulverize me kind of thing. But it's like watching puppies play or something, you know, if they run up and, you know, snip or this, they're like just testing it all in fun. And you can watch nature shows and how that's actually healthy and then prepares them for other stuff too, if that makes sense.
I was just thinking about my kid loves to wrestle, and there's so much energy, and there is a lot of, you know, kind of masculine energy, but there's also a lot of, like, I walked in the house this morning and was like, can I have a hug, Mom? You know, there's like so much sweetness. And I think, they're often conditioned out of that by the time, you know, middle school, high school comes in. And I feel like, so maybe especially as women, our job or one of our tasks is not only to start welcoming men's vulnerability, right, but our children's and our boys' vulnerability, so that they can actually grow up knowing, oh, this is okay. Like,
And right in line with that too. I have found with our oldest, he's 13. What is he? 13 or 14?
He's 13.
13. But like at night, it's funny because he's almost as tall as me, right? So he's basically the size of a man almost. And so it's weird. I find that sometimes when he'll go to bed, he'll ask me to come talk to him in his room. And this is really weird. I'll have this split second of like, he doesn't need that. Like in my brain, he doesn't need me to come and talk to him. But I would never say that to our 9-year-old daughter. I'd be like, oh, I got to go talk to her.
That's why I think it's so weird that people have often said, you know, boys aren't as complicated, or they don't need as much. And I'm like, no, we just didn't listen to them for a couple generations.
Right. We just stifled, like smothered it. Right. Absolutely. And I think too with men, we were talking about this in another call where there is that testosterone element to it. So oftentimes I think as women, we just write them off. Boys will do what, you know, they're just being weird, or they're just being boys or whatever. But so in that writing off process, we almost negate that there's any feelings inside of that there could be any feelings inside of that.
What else would it be though?
Oh, of course.
You know? I mean that's a real question to all the ladies listening.
But again, I think
what else would it be?
It goes right back to like family of origin. I saw my dad never has emotions. He's never afraid. He doesn't cry about anything. You know, if someone is mean to him, he just gets up and dusts himself off and goes in, you know, does whatever. So I've even found myself being surprised at the fact that I did not acknowledge the emotions of my teenage son. And I felt terrible about it. And of course apologize. And I think that repair is really important too. If you're a parent and you've found that you have like negated an emotion or didn't even see it or whatever, go in and make that repair.
Right. That you get to go back. It's not about being perfect. It's about, because they learn so much from our willingness to say, I'm sorry, or, wow, I was really thinking about this. And I realized I said something that doesn't feel totally true to me. And then that we model it for them.
Right. Absolutely. And I think too, there are lots of places for conversations. If this is something that you're seeing in patterns in families, like let's say my grandfather treated my dad like that, so now my dad's treating my brothers like that. And if you're the dad in that situation and you see that kind of family of origin awareness, just have those conversations openly and slowly, and it'll be worth it.
And even to say, like, I love how you guys say you go first, right? And I love doing that too with my clients. And it's to say to your kid, wow, I don't actually, it's hard for me to let other people see me cry, or, you know, it's hard for me to show that I'm upset and, you know, ask for help and showing you to know that I'm working on this too. We don't have to be perfect. I think sometimes for you having a perfect father, or for me having parents who just, you know, were so are disconnected from their emotions, and everybody was fine, even though, like, in the house, I mean, I'm in my parents' house right now, and the energy is thick. It's like, it's so tense. My body's been getting tense, and I'm just like, oh my God, there's so much here. But I also learned, oh, I'm fine. You know, I'm fine. And it's like, oh, finally I started to say, actually, and as I was growing up, like, I'm fine, and I'm feeling really sad right now.
Right.
You know, eventually I kind of left off the I'm fine. But so it takes something to allow ourselves to go into that, no matter what gender we are. Sometimes if we have that family upbringing, right, which is going back to the okay, well, how can women also support men and boys? We've got to actually start to be more comfortable with our own emotions and not try to hide them or stuff them, or, you know, because it's interesting. In some ways, women's emotions are totally welcome. And in other ways, women are called crazy bitches, or it's like, oh God, did you see that? And there's the eye rolls, and right. So there's both things are happening.
Right. And it makes me think, I go back to that, like, balanced, healthy version of whomever we're speaking about. Right. And thinking, when we're modeling this sort of new way of managing emotions, if we're trying to kind of infuse that into our sons, modeling that idea of, you know what, right now I feel like things are just all going to fall apart, but I know I'm strong, I'm smart, I'm wise, I've got support, and I know I'll get through this, but I'm going to feel this for a minute, and then on the other side I'll get through it. Right. Right. And I think it's important
to acknowledge too that and then I could see men listening to this being like, oh, well, then we're just, I don't know, I don't want to make this like I'm having a negative judgment about men, but I could imagine the thought, oh, well, then everybody's just going to kind of be this like hodgepodge middle, you know, I can't actually be my masculine self. And I just want to say that just because we're having more healthy, you know, emotional experience and connection and all that doesn't take away that masculinity or the strength that you know and love, or your desire to go run off of a cliff, and, you know, all those things. And so, right, if you're worried about that, it doesn't have to look that way.
I love that.
It's not an either or. Like, let's not approach masculinity or femininity from a deficit base. Okay, so I can embody who I am, right? Everything, and that doesn't mean I have to tamp down other stuff. I just have to keep it in balance, right? I'm not running off of cliffs or killing deer all the time.
Oh, right. No, I talk about head, heart. It always makes me laugh because I say it as head, heart, and balls balance for men. I love it. And so, right, it's like, you don't have to turn down the dial on your heart. For a lot of men who identify as nice guys, it's like, okay, let's turn up the dial on, you know, your sexuality and your ability to stand for yourself and ask, you know, say what you need and want and all of that. And so instead of turning some dial down, or it's like, you know, 30% head, 33% heart, 33% balls or sexuality, it's like, no, they can all actually be at 100. So you don't have to give up something to then take on something else.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and it makes me think of, essentially it's like mastery. It's a mastery of like head, heart, and balls. Right. But I think of when I think of that, I always overlay sports like football. We live in Seattle. The Seahawks are out here, and those men they're not neglecting or ignoring any part of anything, not their body, not their brains, not their emotions. Because if you're going to make some crazy play, you have to be in control of all of it, but not so rigidly in control that you can't be flexible for something that comes up and changes.
Aren't there a lot of football players who have done ballet, right?
Yes.
It's like, yes. You know, to stretch and reach and be graceful and be balanced and all of that.
Yeah. And they have to have that sort of mastery of their minds, their bodies, all of it, and their intentions. And so I think as we talk about this, in as opposed to discouraging, like you said, we'll all be sort of in that weird middle zone and we don't quite know what we're supposed to be or not or whatever. No, head, heart, and balls, like get out there, like know all the things, but yeah, go forward and like use a chainsaw, wear your plaid, like do all those things,
right?
But don't ignore any of the other.
Excites you, yes.
Right? It excites me. It's
Chainsaw
not about
with
him,
plaid, right? So I want to be respectful from your time, and this is so good. I love it. I think guys are going to really love this.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask both of you a question, and then I'll ask you a question to wrap it up. But what do women in most heterosexual relationships, what can you guys say that women want from their men? Maybe like one to two things.
I was thinking, again, if we go with, the softness or strength or caring or heart, and then the strength on the other hand, like I think there's a desire for acceptance and also at times for leadership, right? So it's like that rock part doesn't have to be all the time, but there is a sense that I see of women wanting to be led or guided or, here's something that's possible, invited, right? There's a kind of leadership there. And then I also see women really wanting to be felt and understood and accepted, as opposed to just like, oh, you're just a woman having a lot of feelings, or you just must be PMSing or whatever. Like to actually have a deep care and understanding.
Yeah, I would just sort of echo that. I think I found with all of our female clients that even if they didn't know they wanted leadership from their husband, they do. Yeah. When I said, well, would you like it if your husband did this? They'd be like, oh, yes. It's like, well, that's leadership. Like, that's all that is. And it's, again, I think it's an invitation to leadership. It's not like, you know everything, I know nothing. That's not what I'm talking about. And we use this analogy sometimes in coaching where it's like, you've got two pilots pilot a plane, right? Like there is a pilot and a co-pilot, but they're not necessarily less skilled or more skilled. They're just different roles. So I think that leadership piece is really a huge element. And then again, too, like the attunement, like that you actually see me and that I'm not some sort of weird inconvenience to you. Like my emotions are not like, right? But you actually like see and care.
Okay. Right. So leadership, if and when shit hits the fan, but then also very acutely balanced attunement in that, right?
Yeah. Right.
Was that what I'm hearing?
And then analogy also, or like the imagery of like, this sounds so weird, but I can't think of any other example, like pharaohs, like a queen, like who's a queen? Nefertiti. Like two really strong, they're just like badasses standing there together. That's what I want.
Badasses.
Right.
It's a collaborative leadership.
Right. Yeah. It's not like I'm not following you. We're going together. Like, come on.
Yeah. Because a co-pilot and a pilot, they both can land the plane.
Right. We're both going to the same spot.
But there's very distinct roles on this flight from Seattle to South Carolina, whatever, 5-hour flight. Yep. I'm on deck for this. You're on deck for that.
Right.
We use that a lot in coaching. Like, I'm like, dude, your wife wants you to know, to know that you are holding this. Hey, kiddo.
Hi.
That you're on deck for this, right? Hi.
Totally. Hold on.
Kind of thing. Okay.
Oops. Sometimes
Is that your 9-year-old?
Yeah.
We should do pen pals with our 9-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
That's like our new thing is pen pals. She actually writes letters to kids. It's really fun.
That would be super fun.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a client in 5 minutes? But tell me what was, you had a last question I think you said.
Oh no, we can edit that part out. But so we want to be respectful of your time. One last question, two last questions actually. Tell our listeners where they can find whatever you want them to find.
Great. I think a great place to go is shanajamescoaching.com, and it's Shana, Shana. And if you go /TEDx, you'll see my TEDx talk. And then there's actually, a guide that supports men in understanding how men lose influence with women and at work. And then there's also a guide for women around the communications that push men away and actually how to bring men closer. So I think that's one of the best places to go. And then you can search around on the website. There's podcasts for men that a lot of women listen to too, because they really appreciate hearing and understanding what men are learning. Yeah. So that's a great resource too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You guys go check out Man Alive podcast also. And what is bringing you jazz right now? Just, I don't know. You like canoe racing? You like, raising puppies? I don't know. What are you into right now?
Oh God, what am I into right now? This is such a great question. I think what I'm I think what I'm attempting to do in my life is actually figure out what I'm into with the pandemic, lots of work and homeschooling. But one of the things that's been lighting me up is remembering that I can actually take pleasure in small things. And so even if it's like, this is going to sound so weird, but I love, Melanie, that you've said that a couple of times. It's like, oh, if I really want like a certain kind of cheese on my salad, like I can have that. I don't have to just be like, oh, it's too far to the refrigerator, or I'm not going to buy it at the store because it's too much money. Or there's just something about like bringing okay, how can life be pleasurable into these tiny moments?
Love it.
I'm glad you mentioned food, because I was like, please say food. Please say.
I love it.
I was hoping you'd say food, because that was like right where my heart went.
Yeah.
Like, say food.
So Shana, thank you so much for taking the time. This conversation is awesome. I'd love to have it again. And you guys go check out Shana James Coaching. ShanaJamesCoaching.com and Man Alive Podcast, and we'll talk to you soon. Hey guys, what's up? We are super excited. We just announced this recently. August 6th, the Back to Basics Bootcamp with yours truly, Seth and Mel of Anatomy of Marriage podcast, right? This is a free event, you guys, okay? We're going to learn about sex and intimacy. The amazing Dr. Tina Shermer Sellers is going to be here. You get to see her for free. Word. Hold the brakes.
I know. Live.
So you better get out here, okay?
With your O-host?
With your O-host, with your own eyes and your own ears, right? And then we're doing a VIP session at our house.
In our backyard.
It's going to be amazing, right? And then after that, after you spend 4 more hours with me and Mel, we're going to go to downtown Seattle and have a party. We're going to eat some German pretzels and do all kinds of stuff, right? So you guys do not want to miss this. Check out the Eventbrite link in the show notes. The Back to Basics Bootcamp, August 6th. 9 a.m. until. So we would love to see you guys there. We're super pumped about it.
Yes. Tell us when you do it, and Air Fives for doing it.
All right, guys. See you soon.
Bye.